Let's start with what we've seen in the markets. It was a flat day today and really no direction really coming through. What's your take on what had happened? I thought I saw some profit taking there.
Certainly, we had two good days after Friday. Remember, Moody's was supposed to release their report last week, which you mentioned, and they didn't, and that was very positive to the market. You saw the rands strengthening quite significantly to about 14, 15, 14, 16 before retracing. The bond yields also were quite strong. So this is just profit taking. The market was up 0.7 on Friday. On Monday, it was up about 1.3% and so on. So I think investors are saying, let's take profits a little bit. And the shares that had done very well then was obviously the retailers and banks. You know, Mr. Price had gone about 5%, Standard Bank up about 3.3% and followed up again by yesterday. So this is just really profit taking.
Yeah. We had that credit opinion, not a rating review from Moody's today. Surprisingly, some positives. But, I mean, would the market generally react to that sort of thing? I didn't think it did.
There was no reaction because I think, as you showed to the viewers, it's almost a balance, you know, the negatives and the positives. So the positives really is that they believe that South Africa is to have a very strong financial system, and I think they have was certain mechanisms and institutions that work. In particular, our legal infrastructure is very strong, but there's the policy uncertainty and the political, socio-economic issues that I think is to a massive overhang. Remember, one of the key issues Moody's was reporting on was the restructuring of the state-owned entities, in particular the breaking down of Eskom. They want to see how that works. And the other issue was to say there need to be more investments and certainly reduce the executive expenditure.
Right, one share that was interesting today, usually when this share is up, Naspers 1.2% higher on the day, you would see the JSE reacting quite positively. But I suppose those industrial stocks really balanced it off on the retailer section. Tencent Holdings in Asia, Naspers owns about a third of that. That company now wants to buy back 10% of its stocks because it wants to shore up its share price. What do you make of it?
That's very interesting because recently, which is really just last week, Naspers said they're going to do a new structure to simplify and have a new listing in Amsterdam, which is a new core, where they're going to put all their investment, including their 31% shareholding in Tencent, and put all their internet. So for me, I think this is really, you know, to try and balance, you know, their books and making sure that their effective holding is still quite relevant, given, I think, what Naspers wants to do.
The Rand, Joseph, I mean, look, we've seen the Moody's note. It wasn't really a disaster. There were some positives there. I would have thought the Rand would have liked it. But on the other side of the world, you have the Turkish lira having a bad time. And in many ways, we connected to that in terms of sentiment. So I suppose that's the reason why we didn't see a stronger Rand on the day.
So this is an emerging market, and we pretty much linked to some of those. These are some of our trading partners, and it's an emerging market or country in Eastern Europe. So that's the balance really you found out. But I think for me, the Rand had done very well, you know, since last Thursday in terms of strengthening. Remember, we're trading at about 14.50 before Moody's said, you know, they're not going to release the results, and the Rand certainly strengthened about 40 cents to about 14.19, 14.20. So really what is done is just recover, and possibly there's no news because that was really expected, and hence you didn't see any movements in the currency and also any movements in terms of the market. But one key issue is that petrol is going to go up.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that really is negative because then inflation is going to come back, and I think the oil price, which you mentioned as well, is sitting at about $69 per barrel, and there's a projection that, you know, for the next 3 months or so it will sit there. So if the oil price remains above 65, and petrol price in inland is going to increase tonight by R1.31, we're going to have inflation pressures. Eskom effectively, the 9.4% increase is effective this April. So certainly I think that's not really positive. That's why possibly the banks and the retailers were not as happy as they were last Friday.